Well, it's George. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We've talked once or twice in different places, but and there's something about the things that you do that make me sort of appreciate you. I sent you like that thing I sent you about loving you and Alex wasn't just to blow smoke up your ass. I mean
Oh
that
yeah, I
that
appreciate it.
episode that episode was that was real.
That's
Um,
what he said to me when we were done.
yeah.
We've been friends for a long time, and he's like, "What the fuck was that, bro?" He's like, "I haven't said any of that before." I'm like, "Good. That means we're gonna have an impact on people. Let's go."
Yeah. So that worked. And that, I jumped on that opportunity to talk to you. So I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, I, the way that we do this show, this is like it's a hot seat show. We talk to people that are stuck somewhere,
Mhm.
and because we're not their ego, it's really easy to give them advice.
Yo,
Um,
it's a good line.
Nobody can
That could be
come.
your
That's one way
tagline.
you can come on.
Is that your tagline? We're not your
What?
ego, so we can give you advice.
No, but that's a good one. No, our tagline is we get people unstuck.
Yeah, I would play with that. We're not your ego. That's a really, really good hook.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the other way you can come on is if is when we need advice, which is always.
Yeah.
Um, but even before we sort of go down that road, for the 1.5 people that have no idea who the fuck George Bryant is, one, buckle up. He's a little energetic.
Yeah.
But you've been through like a lot of different reincarnations. I know you got hit really, really hard at the beginning of COVID. Like, which reincarnation of George Bryant are you now?
I'm the permanent reincarnation, the one that's not affected by the business or the hits or the everything, but have all the tools in my toolbox to know which one to grab at the right time. So I finished after the COVID hit. I finished doing the last bit of work on myself to realize like my skill, my light, my license, where I want to spend my time, and then pretty confident in just changing the wrapping paper as much as possible. So we're on the other side of that now, but it was a good growth experience. So yeah, that's where I am.
So what did you discover with that sort of last bit of unwrapping?
Yeah, so I discovered how quickly I fall into complacency when it comes to everything working. When you have multiple seven-figure companies working, your team is running them, you're spending an hour a week max on them. You have your front door being knocked down, you have an 8-month waiting list for consulting, you get paid 6 figures for a couple days of work. Like, when all of that's going, it's like, yeah, like coasting. And I think it was Les Brown who said, when you stop when you stop working towards the things that you want, the things you don't want show up. And
Oh, that's interesting.
I let off the gas pedal on a few areas, and so then I was like, okay. And so then COVID hit, and I lost a $8 million company in basically 45 days. I lost about $1 million of consulting deals. And then I lost about $80,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue in a matter of 60 days. And I was
Whoa.
like, ouch, ouch. And so the two things that I took away from that, number one is I was still way too personally invested in my value being associated with the monetary value of the business, like as a person. And that the deeper part of that is that I was still looking at the business like it was me or somehow a reflection of me rather than something that I built, right? And so I got to really sit with the discomfort of, okay, there's a lot of opportunity here once I choose to see it that way, right? And there are things that happened that saved me big pain 5 years from now, right? Like the extrapolation would have been massively worse if we were to
Mm-hmm.
extrapolate this out 5 years from now and something happened, right? And so I just had to learn how to basically work on my business, but not let my business be me. Like my business be something that I'm creating in whatever business that is. And then also give me the perspective that things are going to happen. I'm going to get speed bumps. I'm going to get flat tires. And the fastest path is realizing that that's the reality. And when I realize it's the reality, I see the opportunity. And so it wasn't easy though. Like I went through like a purging process, like felt like an ego death. And I was like, I've failed. And all my friends are like, shut up. You're still like crushing it and blah. But it's all relative. And for me in that
Yeah.
moment, it it just felt like the world was ending, even though I consciously knew it wasn't. Like, I logically knew I would be fine. But there was a lot of, I would say validation and, yeah, I would say validation and ego involved, where like I had thought I made it and I could just coast for a minute. And then I realized that me coasting was me still avoiding doing the work. And
Mhm.
so all of it basically just created this cooking pot where it's like you can't get out. The lid's closed. Like, what are you gonna do? And so I just dug in and did the work, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard lesson to learn, but entitlement in the sense that you think that now whatever's happening to you is somehow you're owed it rather than it's a result of you doing the work is the worst thing that can happen to you. It might feel good for a little bit, but
Yeah.
afterwards it just catches up to you and bites you in the ass.
Yep. Yeah. So
You know,
that's what I got to.
I mean, it's interesting you say that. One of the things, so Greg and I were talking this morning and trying to figure out what we wanted to talk to you about. And one of the things that we've noticed lately is we're trying to use fun as a barometer of what we want to do. So whenever we get stuck in something, we try and figure out, can we figure out what this would feel like if it was fun? I'll give you an example. We put out a podcast every week, and then we say, okay, well, once it goes out on Thursday, we should all go on our social media and push it so that people go and look for it. And we did that once or twice, and it had a real impact on downloads, but it felt really gross because it's like, please download my podcast. It's like, here it is. Here I am again with the same fucking script that I ran last week, just hoping that you'll click on stuff so that in my little dashboard, I see the graph going up. And, you know, within 2-3 weeks, neither of us was doing it. And it was sort of, you know, a week and a half afterwards. Did you post in social? Like the download, did you post in social? No. Did you? No. Why not? Because it sucks. And we solved that by making these. My daughter makes these stupid Photoshop pictures where we take stills from 80s movies and just stick our faces on it.
Yeah, love it.
And they look stupid and they're lots of fun. And now I can't wait for Thursday to show up so I can show all of my friends the stupid ass pictures my daughter put together. And it's completely flipped it on its head. I can't wait to push out the project, the podcast. What we're still struggling with is we're running into the sort of the same thing with sales now.
Yep.
Like we can't figure out. We've put out we sell an hour of our time. If you don't want to come on the podcast, and we will give you like really, really good advice. And neither of us had pushed this. And I know we're avoiding it like the plague. We know there's even a guy who said that he would want to come on, and we keep on finding reasons for not like scheduling him because of something.
Yeah, you're just lying to yourself.
Yeah, that's right. So how do you? What's a good? Help us try and figure out how we make selling that fun.
Oh my god, I love
we do
this.
look.
I love this.
We
This
do
is
like
so good.
talking to people.
Are we recording for the podcast?
Well, oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So first, the social media one.
Yeah.
Everything you asked me was about you.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about you.
Okay.
I care about the people it's impacting.
Right.
Why do you have a business if you're not willing to help people? You posting on social media has nothing to do with you or you wanting to do it. It has everything with meeting people where they are. Wrong way to look at it. How do they consume it?
Okay.
How would they see it? Where are you going to find them? It's like literally standing there and looking at a car accident and it's on fire and you're like, I could walk over and get them out, but you know what? It's just not fun. I'm just going to watch. You can't.
Oh, this is, yeah.
You talk about dismantling the ego, which is allowing you to dig yours in deeper. And then it's justified because we're helping other people with it, but yet we're being the exact thing we hope people walk away from. The ego.
I'm cringing so badly. This is very good, George.
The ego is the devil. It's sneaky. Like, you have to remember, the ego is in your brain. It knows every thought, every fear, every insecurity, and it also knows your story. It knows the part of your story that realizes that if you charge money, you might be good enough. Or if you post it, it might grow. And if it grows, you might be successful. And if it's successful, it might prove your story wrong. And so it'll find every way imaginable, and it'll change the wrapping paper. And so you went from, oh, this worked, to, oh, this feels icky. Did anybody tell you it was icky? No. And then you were like, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to make it fun. And then the next time is going to be like, oh, we're going to make it serious. Oh, I'm going to make it about my daughter. Well, 6 weeks later, all the podcasts didn't go to the people they were supposed to go to help them get to where they wanted to get to, and your flower died in the garden. Because what would happen if you actually posted it every day? That's the question to ask. And then the deeper question is, what are you afraid of happening that's preventing you from posting it every day? And then the deeper question is, what are you pretending not to know?
Oh, that's deep.
And so you have two choices. Play small or play big, but make a fucking decision. And if you want to play small, be honest with yourself. I'm not posting on social media because I don't want to have an impact and I don't want to grow my business. Watch how quick you post. Right? And then put some consequences to it. I'm not charging this guy money because I don't believe in what I want to do. Well, maybe that's not true. I'm not charging him money because I want to keep food out of my daughter's mouth. Well, maybe that's not true. I'm not charging him money because I don't want to be successful. Fuck. Okay, man, here's an invoice. That's it.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, like, we coach people on the things we need coaching on. That's the only reason we can see it. That's why we do it. We hide in our message.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. And so when you look at it, like, I don't care if your social media is fun. You're fighting a fucking algorithm. You have 1,000 people. You should post your fucking podcast 1,000 times in a row to make sure every one of them sees it. Or else why are you doing it? Right? And then at that point, you'd be like, oh, I'm doing it because I just love doing it. Well, great. Then just keep doing it. Don't post at all. Be Joe Rogan. Right? Like, do it in your basement, and then if people find it, they find it. But then the moment you're like, I want it to be a business, I want to have an impact, you're being selfish as shit. Impacting who? The people you're not sharing it with? Like...
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Why? So
I wrote this quote down on a run. Hold on. I got to read you this quote.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. Like, I can't.
Just go.
I went on a run right before this. You ready? It's about reality, the pillar of reality. Reality is neither the way you wish things to be, nor the way they appear to be, but the way they actually are. Either acknowledge reality and use it to your benefit, or it will work against you.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that's reminding me of something I said to my daughter this morning, which is there's only so much you can do to change reality. There is everything you can do how you perceive it.
1,000%.
Up to you.
1,000%. 1,000%. So, like, the deep question here is, like, what am I afraid of? What are you afraid of? Somebody hearing your podcast and not achieving a result? Well, you're welcome. It's going to happen. Afraid of somebody talking shit about you? Google my name. Have fun. There's some really good ones. I read them for fun. I'm a kook. I belong in a straitjacket. This guy's never done anything. He hasn't even built a 6-figure business. Never mind a 7-one. I'm like, that's totally fine, man. And then I pick up the phone and call him. I'm really good at hacking, so I find people's phone numbers. They don't say that when you pick up the phone, though. But it's coming.
No, that's right. That's always true. Why do you think it's so much easier to give someone advice than to take your own advice? Like, I mean, I can talk to someone who's struggling with exactly the same things that I'm struggling with, and I know exactly what they need to do. And then I look at myself, I'll still know what I need to do, and the fact that I know it will help me not at all.
Because giving people advice is fucking easy.
Yes.
And succeeding takes work.
Yeah.
So the short answer is because we're lazy. And human beings crave comfort. And will crave comfort to the point of pain. Like, we would rather look at how hard or how much it hurts and how much we'll endure to stay the same than how easy it would be to change. That's how human beings work. Right? Because it's familiarity, and we're designed and wired for survival. So where's the easiest place to hide? Why do you think?
With the shit that you already know.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you and I both know, you can watch somebody give a keynote and be like, this fucker doesn't take his own advice. But he's like one of the best speakers in the world. Of course he is, because he's talking to him damn self.
Yeah.
And he's like, let me hide a bit. That's why they all crash, right? That's why they all have breakdowns. That's why they get depressed. That's why they get adrenal fatigue, right? And then they have to do more and more and more. I did it. It was me. Like, I'm not sitting here talking about like, oh, I didn't figure this out. Like, I've spent years neglecting the work that I've needed to do to make everybody else winning so I could collect the validation to convince myself that what I was doing was right while all I was doing was failing. That's it. It's like I coach 100 people on how to win a marathon, and I expect that that's going to teach me to run a 2-hour marathon. Shut up, put your shoes on, and get out the damn door. And then I had the audacity to be like, well, they didn't write me a check. Like, they didn't even say thank you. They shouldn't have. I was being a manipulative prick. I wasn't even doing it to help them. I was doing it to hide from me. Why would somebody pay me for that?
I knew this is going to go this way. I just didn't know it was going to take less than 10 minutes.
Could do it in 60 seconds.
I'm so glad you're here, George. This is what I love about you.
Well, like, and like for anybody listening to this, like, I am not on a soapbox. Like, I'm doing this to myself every day. Like, my wife kicks my ass hard, and I mean hard. And like, I was like, the other day I looked at myself and I was like, God, I'm really tired of going to the gym. I need a break. And I'm like, oh, you still can't run? I'm like, can't run? I'm like, you used to run 20 miles a day even when you couldn't feel your legs. You can't run? I'm like, go buy some fucking running shoes and run. And I was like, God, I can't even run a half a mile. I'm like, because I haven't run in 3 years. So now I'm running 6 miles a day. It takes a long time. And I figured I'd make it 6 miles and eventually I'll get it back to 40 minutes and I'll buy back an hour and 20 minutes of my time. But no matter what, it's 6 miles. In silence. Let's go. Like, that's what it is. Like this, and like, I'm not doing this like ooh rah rah, like let's go. But like, who am I to stand on a soapbox and be like, I want you to build your business so you can spend more time doing the things you love and then sabotage your body in the process? No. I'm like, no, I got to do this. Like, I have a 3-year-old. I have a 15-year-old. Like, what do I want my son to think? That like life is complete when you sit in front of a camera all damn day, right? Like, I have a ring light tan on my face from the light because I don't know what vitamin D is. No, like, no, it's like, you got to just get up and do something. And quite frankly, entrepreneurs create vacuums for themselves all the time because we don't want to face the reality, because the reality hurts for a moment, right? But when you ignore it, it hurts forever. It hurts forever. And so when I look at like what happened like during COVID or during any of it in my mastermind or my consulting or whatever, it's like, why did it happen? I'm like, because it was all about me. I was like, if I was actually delivering on something in that contract or that deliverable that didn't need me, which it doesn't, but the way I delivered it did, they still wouldn't have canceled the contract. I didn't want to accept the fact that I was still seeking validation. I was just seeking it to the tune of 6 figures a ring. And so it's really easy to stay that way. You're like, why would I change? They're paying me X for, and trust me, like, why would I post? I'm helping other people do it. You got to get.
So have you know, with everything that you've sort of gone through, have you figured out a way of making that vacuum smaller and managing that better and being aware of it?
Yeah, I shut up and do something. And then I tell somebody I'm doing it. Like one of my business partners, Stefano Safondos, we do men's work together. We do men's coaching, all this stuff, right? And I, in the middle of this, sent him a video of me bawling my eyes out, like crying. And I was crying so hard I puked like 4 times. Like, that's how hard the anxiety was. I was having a full-blown like PTSD anxiety attack. And I'll never forget, I have the video on my phone. I watch it now like every day, and it makes my skin cringe. And I cried, I puked, and at the end of 2 minutes, I was like bawling. I was like, when is it going to stop? When does it get easy? And he responded, he's like, when you want it to. And that's all I said. And it was
what the fuck do you do with that?
Well, you think about it. Think about our feelings. Like, when we feel something in our body, it's associated with a thought, right? Is the thought reality? No. It's a program that we're playing. We hit play. Put a DVD in. We're like, let's give the DVD of worst case scenario. Oh, my wife said she needed to talk. Shit. 4 hours. She hates me. She's going to leave me. I didn't do something. What did I forget? Oh, no. She's like, hey, honey, I want to go to dinner. And you're like, oh, 4 hours of suffering, right? None of it was real. None of
Yeah.
it was real, right? So, like, very simply put, you'd be with it. The reason we suffer is because we continue to bring suffering to the suffering. We try to push it down. We try to avoid it. We try to disconnect. We try to distract. Oh, I'm suffering. I'll play a game on my phone. Oh, I'm suffering. I'll post on social for dopamine. Oh, I'm suffering. I'll call somebody. No, just sit there for a minute and take a damn breath. And like realize the check engine light's on for a reason. Why is it on? It's not going to go away, but you have to become aware of it, right? Why was mine on? Mine was on because I was making up all this stuff that wasn't true. And then instead of me, I don't know, building a business or running or eating clean, I was sitting in my driveway crying, thinking about binge eating. So I could just create more and more and more and more and more. And I think it's just soft. Like, it's so easy now to go to numb, to go to distract, to go to disconnect. And then we are the worst. We won't hold ourselves accountable. And then what we'll do is we'll recluse ourselves so the people that care about us don't hold us accountable either, because they have no clue. We sit here and we're busy work like a badge of fucking honor. Since when is it a badge of honor to be ineffective? Like, oh, I'm so proud of myself that I wasted 8 hours today. Like, that's what we talk about.
You're right.
Like, I do it to my wife. She's like, hey, babe, were you done working? I'm like, no, babe, I got to do this. And she'll look at me. She's like, bullshit. I'm like, oh, damn, I'm done. I close the laptop and I walk out of the office.
Yeah.
I'm like, because you and I both know it takes me 10 minutes to write that email, but you and I both know I put it off for 6 hours.
But so I have a question. Do you think you could write that email in 10 minutes at the beginning of the 6 hours? Do you need to suffer through 6 hours before you can get it out?
No, of course I could write it. I just choose not to. I chose not to. I chose to make a YouTube video more important. I chose to make you more important. I chose to make an email more important. I chose to sacrifice everything that I tell everybody I want to fucking build and then blame it on other people. That's why. That's the cold, hard fact.
Yeah.
I look at it, I'm like, oh, I want to spend more time with my kids. Do I? No, I don't. Not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID has proven that to a lot of people. I mean, everybody said that, I want freedom so I can spend more time with my family. Well,
Totally.
here you go, 6 months of this. What do you think?
Totally.
It's like, not quite. I don't know about that freedom thing.
And like what I'm saying though is like, I'm saying this to be like radically honest with myself, right? Like my business partner in High Speed Daddy, we had a big breakthrough a couple years ago because, the whole thing, well, I'm building this for my family. I'm building this for my family. No, we weren't. We were building this to prove we could do it. And then the moment we both agreed to it, everything got easy. We're like, yeah, we're not doing this for them. Now we are. Right? But I'm pretty sure my 3-year-old's not going to be like, yeah, Daddy, I want you to work 16 hours a day. I want you to not spend time with me, say no to everything that you say. I'm pretty sure my wife will be like, yeah, I married you so I could never see you, or you to take your stress of work out on me. Like, yeah, I'm so glad you're doing this for me. She'd be like, I'd rather live in a cardboard box. Get out of here. Right? And so like it really comes down to choice. And what I think has happened with social media and the amount of false surfacey connection we have is we've advocated our adulthood back to being fucking children. And we sit here and wait for somebody to hold us accountable. We sit here and wait for somebody to tell us to do it. And I'm like, you want me to wipe your ass too? Like that's where we're getting to. Like, will somebody on Facebook please tell me I need to wipe my ass when I'm done going to the bathroom? Like, I'm not joking, but that's what's happened. Like, you go back 30 years, we didn't have to have a conversation about you keeping your word or showing up to meetings on time or sending the thing on the report on time or showing up to work on time or not being late or not playing on your phone or not falling asleep at work. Because, like, integrity meant something. We are a...
And it feels like there were consequences. Like, people don't...
1,000%, but we're a society of addicts now. And I was like, oh, we're not addicted. I'm like, not to sugar. You're addicted to fucking dopamine. You're addicted to mediocrity. You're addicted to distraction. Your life is not in here. This is Ready Player One that's not real. Like, you have to get into it, but we don't, and then we avoid it because it's hard and it hurts, so we go right back here. And then that's the vicious cycle. And then we, like, collect evidence. We beat ourselves up. Well, I could have done it. I'm like, you're playing the wrong game. Put the fucking phone away and just sit there. Like, when was the last time we sat and stared at the wall for 20 minutes? That was normal 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most significant things I've done in the last, I want to say, half a year is once or twice a week, I'll go on a walk, a hike in the woods for 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Just me and my ears and the chipmunks that I'm irritating.
Well, I go to the gym at 3:30 in the morning. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to audiobooks. I don't watch videos. I don't consume anything till 9 a.m. Nothing. Like nothing. And it sucks. And it sucks that it sucks. Like it sucks that me being a human is challenging. That's what sucks. And then it's like, okay, cool. And so like to answer the question, because I got to close the loop, like what do? You choose not to. But like we can't advocate our sovereignty to somebody else. Like nobody's coming to save us. But I think a lot of it starts with being in integrity with ourselves. Like I have no problem. I have no problem that you haven't charged that guy money because you were honest about it. And you said, I've been putting it off and we're finding excuse after excuse after excuse, right? And I was like, great. Yep. But how many more days are you going to have fucking excuses? So you either make a decision because the only person you're hurting right now is him. And quite frankly, you're being an asshole. That's all. Because what he said is I'm willing to invest money for you to help me. And you said you'd help me, but now you're not fucking helping me. That's all that's happened is you're dragging somebody along when they're in a point of pain and your ego is being more important than their fucking results. That's it. And so you have to be like, I'm either going to give it away for free so I'm not an asshole, or I'm going to charge him money and help him anyways. Or I'm not, I'm going to help him and I'm never going to charge again. But there has to become a point where you put tight containers on your bullshit meter. Right? I sit here like I'll have shitty feelings. I'll be like, God, I'm such a failure. So I open my phone, I start a countdown timer, and I tell myself for a minute how much of a failure I am. And then once the timer goes off, I have to go do something. And so I'll make a rule. I'm like, all right, I'll do it for a minute, then I got to go for a run. I'll do it for a minute, then I got to write an email. I'll do it for a minute, then I got to make a call. And the minute goes off, I get up and I go. I'm like, great, I got to be right about myself for a minute. And it always feels like shit.
Yeah.
And then I'm done and I go do something with it, right? But what we do is we leave it open. And then we'll leave it open and then we'll go through our day and everything that happens in our day that would just be normal. Oh, made a post, nobody commented. Oh, the deal didn't close. Instead of it just being what it is, we're like, oh, see, I failed again. Oh, see, I failed again. Oh, see, I failed again. And then we're like, I'm building a successful business with this shitty energy. It's impossible.
Damn it, George. You're good.
I haven't said anything in 30 minutes.
I know.
I've just been like in a stupor. I don't know what to say. I need to digest this.
Where are you lying to yourself, Greg?
Me?
Where do you think you're not lying to yourself? And maybe George can show you that.
No, I mean, a lot of this is hitting home and ringing true.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like I, showed up for a podcast and ended up in the ring with, Mike Tyson. And I've just been like, I'm just taking the blows here. And, I mean, that's where I am. So this is good stuff.
But I think it's an important topic and I'm going to harp it on men here, just for men to talk about, right? Just for men. Like, I see you both. You see me. If I had it all figured out, we wouldn't be on this podcast. You'd be in person on my island, and I'd pay for your way, and we'd be having an impact on the world. I'm still figuring it out, right? But like
that's for sure, George. If I thought you were full of shit, you wouldn't be.
Well, no, but like what I'm saying though is like we're witness to each other.
That's right.
I don't respect you any less. I love you to pieces for being honest, just like you do me, right? But yet, the moment this podcast ends, it goes into this world where everyone's like, I got to put on a mask. I got to tell them it's okay. I got to pretend I haven't figured out or I got to do nothing. And I'm like, I'll just post my sloppy mess everywhere. Let's go. Like, I don't care. Like, this is me snotting. This is me puking. Like, I literally have done videos of me live puking because I was so upset. And I was like, what's the hardest thing I could do right now? I'm like, I'm going to tell everybody. My wife thinks I'm nuts, thinks I'm crazy, but I have a really high threshold. I need input sometimes for it to like get me going, right? But I think it's really important because this is how I hold myself accountable, right? And I think accountability is one of the biggest things, right? But people can't hold us to our greatness when we lie about where we are. They can't. No one can coach you. No one can help you. Right. And so like for me, COVID didn't take anything away from me. COVID sped up the process of what was already happening because of what was missing from me. That's it. That's it. And quite frankly, the one that hurt the worst was my mastermind. That's my baby. That's my pride and joy. Or that's what I told myself. And it hurt really bad. And since then, I've written a 33-page manifesto of what I'm going to create for people in that mastermind because I lost it all. And I'm getting ready to open it again, but that would have never come out. And you know what I was doing? I was hiding in my mastermind. I was coaching other people so I didn't have to do the daily work. So I didn't have to keep my word, to have discipline, to be committed, to forgive myself, to focus on the needle movers. And so I wrote this manifesto, and it's probably one of like the proudest things I've ever written. I haven't even shared it with anybody yet. I'm still writing it. I'm like going, I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm doing it. But like that was a gift that would have never come. But I think the more that all of us can bear witness to people and hold space for people to be okay where we are, but be honest about where we are and allow that moment to be the peg in the ground or the stake in the ground. Like this is the starting line of something different. We might fail again in 10 minutes. And then
but that's part of that's right. But that's part of what like has been so revealing about this podcast for me, and I'm sure that it is for Greg too. Is one because we don't edit the shit out of it, and we don't know what's going to come up, you know, in any of these conversations, and just getting used to just having that out there. So I do not have your threshold, you know.
Totally.
But give me time.
I was a pretty heavy addict in everything, bulimic. Opiates, abuse, trauma, war. Like it took a lot to ring my bell. I mean, I can cry for like 9 years. Now I cry like 7 times a day. So I love it, right? Like I don't in the moment, but I love it when I'm done. But I think it's just really, really, really important. And then, you know, there's a really good movie. I think you guys will appreciate that. Everybody. I found this thing buried on Apple TV. It's called Chasing the Present. Chasing the Present. And I've done a lot of work on myself. And then I tell you I've done a lot of work on myself to hide the fact that there's still work I'm not doing daily because I'm scared of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I lived in this place where I was like, I've probably invested 7 figures in therapy. And I've done it all. CBT, prolonged exposure, EMD, group therapy, psychiatrist, psychologist, meditation, silent retreats, plant medicine, MDMA, ayahuasca. I've done all of it. Psilocybin, you name it, I've done it. Breath work, cold therapy, all of it. And I was sitting here and like looking around and I'm like, God, I have literally stem cells. I'm like, I have more tools than 99% of the people who have experienced lives similar to mine and succeeded. What's happening? I'm like, oh, all I keep doing is putting more tools in the toolbox so I don't have to use one. That's it. That's all I was doing. That's all I was doing. And I watched that movie and there's a professor, the leading professor on duality in that movie, just studied duality his whole life. And I watched that movie right after I finished a long talk on quantum mechanics and quantum physics because I geek out on some of this stuff. And so I'm sitting there watching this movie. My family's out of town. I'm alone at home. I'm watching this movie. And the guy sits there and he has an entrepreneur who built all this success. And the more successful he got, the more anxiety he got, the more depressed he got, and the more panic attacks he had. And so he's like trying to find the present, like what it is. And, you know, I've heard every cliche thing in the world, right? You get anxiety from thinking about the future. You get depressed thinking about the past, right? So we have to be in the present. Like I know all these things. I teach these things. And so there was one question that this guy asked that broke everything for me. Like 27 years came to a culmination in one question that was 3 words. And so he looked at the guy across the table, and this entrepreneur, super successful, and he's like, who are you? That's all he asked him. And his first answer, I'm a husband, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm successful. And he's like, okay, were you born that way? No. Okay, who are you? So then he goes to states of being. And I'm playing along my couch, right? I'm like, oh, I'm a loving, passionate, trusting man. And he's like, in every moment. And the guy's like, no. And then he pauses for like 15 seconds. And then I broke down and just started crying. I just started crying. And then the guy on the TV started crying. And I was like, oh, no. And he's like, who are you? And like, this dude was good. The way they produce it, he just lets it marinate for like 20 seconds, right? And I'm like bawling at this point. I'm like, I don't know who I am. Oh, that's the problem. Like, ah. And then he just went, and he's like, you're this, and then you're this, and then you're this. And he's like, in every one of those snaps, you were whoever you were in that moment. And he's like, so who do you want to be? And I don't know what it was, but it like crushed me in a good way. I hit pause and I stared at the ceiling for an hour. Nothing else, no music, no nothing. And I stared at the ceiling and I was flooded with dopamine. My heart, my chest, my head. I have never been so happy in my life. And I just sat there in every moment being like, I'm now. And my wife came home. She's like, you look different. And she literally asked me if I did a plant medicine ceremony. I was like, no, I just watched a movie. She's like, what? My
That's
wife thinks I'm
amazing.
kooky, right? Now, probably since that movie, I've probably asked myself 100 times a day, who am I? Like this morning, I had anxiety, my wife, something going on, right? And I made up everything. I was like, well, who am I? I'm like, well, I'm not that anymore. Let's let that go. And I go, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And what I think happened is that when we look at trauma, when we look at anxiety, when we look at growth, when we look at success, we live in this instant gratification world that has eliminated the ability to see a process and to find meaning in the process. And so what we tend to focus on is where we are and then where we want to go, and we try to skip the middle. We try to take the shortcut, right? And nobody in today's world celebrates the steps. Nobody celebrates the fact that you tilled the soil, and then you dug the hole, and then you put the plant in, then you put the soil on, then you watered it, then you sunlighted it. All they give a shit is they want the vegetable on the other side or the fruit on the other side, right? But that's not how this game works. And so what I've been working with myself is just finding moments of my day to just be. And I mean just be. No phone, no app.
Which is tough, right? I mean,
it used to be. I made it tough because, like, what's the measuring stick that's tough? Because I'm telling myself a story that I'm supposed to be doing something else or that I could be moving somewhere else. But then that's counterintuitive or counterproductive to what I'm actually doing.
no, I think it's tough, George, because I've come, the more questions I ask,
Yeah.
I've come to the opinion that there's two fundamental questions and the answers for everybody are the same. But the path to getting to what is the really underlying question is different for everybody else because everybody's got to go through their own shit. And I mean, the two questions are, what do you really want?
Yeah.
And how do you get it? And
Yeah.
the answer to what you really want is to be seen, recognized, loved. And the way you get it is by loving yourself.
Potentially, right? But like in that moment, like maybe, but in the next moment, you might want money. In the next moment, you might want validation.
But what's that about? But isn't it all about the same thing?
It depends, because you can't say everybody's path is different to get there, but then the path to finding it in the wrapping paper. There isn't a bottom absolute for anybody. There's a pursuit of a bottom absolute, for sure. But you go talk to the wisest Buddhist teachers, monks. I just had a monk on my podcast. They lived in a monastery 10 years. I've known one for 28 years, right?
Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah,
I heard him talk.
Yeah, with Elp. Elp's awesome.
Yeah.
Like Christian Minson's another friend of mine who does breathwork. He's in a monastery for 28 years. Silent. 28 years. He's a white dude. That's what's crazy for me. I was like, what? But then when you look at it and you like get deep into it, it's not even self-love. It's not even this. It's just presence. Like the wisest teachers, the wisest everything is just trying to find the present moment. Not even meaning on the present. Like the term bodhisattva is one who chooses to surpass enlightenment for the betterment of humanity, right? But that's the point. And like, it doesn't matter what God you believe in, what energy, what everything. Like, if you don't think that this existential meat suit is held together by something greater, then we can't be friends, right? Like, I'm sorry. But when you look at that, like for me, what it is like realizing that like, I might not get in the car and road trip tomorrow. I might not have a business tomorrow. I might not have one tonight. I have no idea, but what I have is right now. And in right now, like absolute presence isn't here, it's here. And so love or validation or acceptance is up here. Beingness is here, right? And so yes, I would love to say that like for me, I believe that like, oh yeah, it's getting seen, heard, and respected and all those things. That's codependent per se. And then it's like self-love, but self-love is a thought. right? Like, and most of the time, our happiest states in the world is cutting us off at the head, right? And like, this is my favorite thing. Somebody did this to me. They asked me a question. I have like 3 colors in my crayon box, right? I'm like a caveman, so my lessons have to be small for me to learn them. And like, I'm just that way. And so she looked me dead in the face. And she kept telling me, she said, you just think too much. You just think too much. I'm like, no, like I feel it. I feel it. She's like, oh. She's like, watch. She's like, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I want you to point to yourself. I was like, okay, cool. Ready? And I'm not going to do this to you. I'll do it to myself. And she's like, okay. And she's like, and that's what's funny. This was 6 years ago. Who are you? And I grabbed my hand, and I went. And she's like, okay, take it down. I'm like, cool. She's like, who are you? I'm like, take it down. She's like, who are you? I'm like, and she's like, notice how you didn't point to your head once. Rocked me.
Oh. Yeah.
Rocked me.
There you go again.
And then,
but
yeah, there we go. Challenge it.
There we go. No, but let me go with the but. Let me go with the but. The but's about you. It's not about that pointing out. You keep on saying that you need things to be simple, but you're expressing really, really complicated things that all of us struggle with our entire lives. And I'm not saying that you've got solutions to them, but you've obviously spent a lot of time thinking about them. And the simplicity with which you express them is a result of the work you've done, and not not because it's superficial.
No,
so
I actually think the simplicity of it is because I'm ignoring all the work I've done and listening to my teachers. Like, this is what's really interesting about this for me. Is my new addiction was the pursuit of meaning. Right? And so I would hide in the pursuit of knowledge, or in the pursuit of therapy, or in the pursuit of healing, or the pursuit of breath, or the pursuit of cold, right? But as long as I'm consuming, am I creating anything different? No.
What are you pursuing now?
Me? Creation.
Yeah.
And so when I look at this, my teachers, and I have 4 people that I talk to daily in my life that help me. Alex being one of them, Stephanos being another one, my buddy Brad, Jay, and so when I look at this, they all know the same thing, and we all say the same thing. I literally would be like, okay, this is coming up, and they'll all respond the same way. Who cares? Go do something. Who cares? Go do something. Who cares? Go do something. I'll text Steph. I'll be like, man, I feel like shit. And he's like, so? Why? Move. Build. Create. Go. Like, nothing. And I mean nothing comes from stagnation. Nothing. And whether we like it or not, everything's moving. The rock on the ground outside of your house is moving. Just because we can't see it. And so we think about us as human beings. And what I have learned is that anxiety is just unused energy. We have de-evolved our gas tanks as human beings, because we have created a world of comfort that doesn't allow us to burn the fuel required every day. So it builds up inside of us, and then we call it ADD, ADHD, anxiety, and depression. And the truth is, if we all just picked ourselves up and fucking moved, none of it would be there. I've yet to find one person that says, I feel like shit, I went like a run, and I felt more depressed. I felt like shit, I chose to eat healthy, I'm sadder than when I started. I felt like shit, I went for a walk, it's way worse.
So how do you bridge this gap where I mean, and I think most people, if they haven't experienced it, and I would challenge just about anybody that says that they've never experienced adversity, they may have forgotten it. It may be wrapped in whatever comfort you're in now, but we've all experienced it. And if you're really honest with yourself, the moments where you felt most alive is where you were having the roughest time.
Totally. Well, and by the way, gents, I fucking love this conversation. This is my favorite conversation I've ever had. So thank you for letting me talk the whole time. See, you like that? I know it. I'm addicted to hearing myself talk. I'm totally addicted to it.
Wow.
This is how I process. So to answer, like, one of the things that I do, whether it's with you, I'll talk to myself because I have thoughts in my head so fast. I'm getting emotional because it was made wrong so much of my life, but I have thoughts so fast in my head that I actually win by moving and talking them out. So like a lot of people like, oh, well, your podcast. I'm like, my podcast is therapy for me.
Yeah.
I was like, because I'm just following the path. I talk to myself in the mirror. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm sure my neighbors want to call the cops on me, but either way, I'm good with it, right? But you know, the thing here, and I've done a lot of work. Like I've been through personal development, I've done through all this, and like the other thing that like I think about is like, you know, adversity. Like, what is adversity? Adversity is just resistance. That's all it is, right? Adversity is iron sharpening iron, or
Hmm.
it's creating resistance. It's gravity working in our favor, right? But like, we wouldn't exist on this planet without gravity. Gravity is resistance. It's resistance about us floating up, right? Like, adversity is the same thing. Adversity is the same thing. Like, when we're faced with adversity, unless you are physically harmed, there is no physical adversity to your body. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from doing anything.
Hmm.
We're told, thought to believe, convinced that there is, but there's nothing. Like you calling me and telling me like my deal didn't close or I can't launch that business or I lost that thing that's not adversity. That's not resistance. There's nothing in my way. I just have to pick up and go do something, right? And so I even think this like thought of like adversity, like to boil it down, simplicity, and here's the reason. I'll get stuck in overthinking it because it protects me, right? What I crave from my core wounds that I've worked through more than anything is protection through comfort, security, and safety, right? And so I'll get comforted in knowing that I have the answer or that I can protect myself or that I can use words to manipulate people to protect myself for all the best reasons, right? But all I do in those moments is freeze. I'm just freezing and putting words on top of them, right? And so when you're like, oh, you know, boiled down to simplicity, for me, it's really simple. 9 out of 10 times when something comes up in my life, I get up and move. The end. I go walk, I go run, I jump, I get in the ice bath, I go move into breath work, I move into the different room, I move to the kids, I move to the refrigerator and get a water. I do something. Like I literally just physically move. And 8 out of those 9 times it goes away in the instant. Right? It's just a state change. Tony Robbins teaches this, everybody else teaches this, but that's like how we are as beings. So I think back on like where I went wrong. Like my happiest days of my life were in the Marine Corps. And that should have been the hardest, saddest, most depressed times. I was never bothered by PTSD when the things that I witnessed when I was in the Marine Corps. And I was emotional. When people died, I cried. I wasn't like the robot that turned it off. Like I fully expressed my emotions. But when I was in the Marine Corps, I was up at 3:30 in the morning and going to bed at 10 p.m. for 12 years. 2 workouts a day, 12 to 14 hours of work. I didn't have an idle mind at all. I was constantly in motion, in progress. And then the only time I ever got hit with PTSD and the suicidal thoughts and all this stuff was when I stopped moving. Like when I literally allowed all of that to build up inside of me. All of it. And then when it started building up, I started attaching stories to it and giving it fuel. And then it went up and went up and went up, and I ended up in the hospital. And if I go back and look at it, what I did is I stopped being a human being. I stopped. I turned the volume knob down, and I was like, oh, yeah, nope, I'm just going to coast now. You can't. We're supposed to move. We're supposed to build things. We're supposed to move our bodies. We're supposed to breathe. We're supposed to like do things, not sit at desks, not with technology, not with Wi-Fi, not with 5G, not with EMFs, not all that stuff. We're supposed to move. We're supposed to be outside.
So is the trick like when you're stuck under your down comforter and it's cold outside
Get the
and you know that
fuck up.
it's great to start the day, but you can't pull it off? Is it just because you've done it so many times and you know that it works,
Yeah,
or
no,
is
I fucking
there something
hate
else?
being cold. Like I hate being awake and I hate being cold.
Yeah, here you are.
I can't fucking stand cold water. And I have an ice bath in my garage. And I cry almost every time.
So what are you telling yourself? How are you getting yourself to get in the bath?
I pick my foot up, I pick the other foot up, and I sit down.
And why the fuck are you doing that when everything inside of you is screaming, George, just don't do it this time. This time it's going to be worse than ever before.
Because everything else is stagnation. And
So it is because you understand like
I am
that
being
to not
honest
go
with
in is
myself.
death.
Yeah, I'm being honest with myself. I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be stuck. And I found something greater than me that says like, fuck it, I'll go. And I'm like, Like 2 days ago, I got in the ice bath. I didn't even make it 30 seconds. It hurt so bad. I was crying. I was dry heaving. And I got out and I was like, that's what I got today. But I got in. I've also done a 37-minute ice bath at 33 degrees. And it was the easiest thing in the world. It was the easiest thing in the world because emotionally I was there. Mentally I was there. Physically I was there. It was easy. Like I can tell you how emotionally off or rocked I am based on how hard an ice bath is. It's easy, right? And it's like, cool, but I'm going to move forward, right? Andy Frisella calls it power tasks. The Stoics did this every day. Like, pick your philosophy and go all the way back. And everything said, put your fucking shoes on and take a step forward. And then if you're not going to put them on and you're not going to step forward, at least be honest with yourself that you didn't do it. Don't beat yourself up and then be like, well, now I'm just not going to do it again. I ate a slice of pizza, so let me order 6 more. Come on. Right? Like, no. Be like, oh, I ate the slice of pizza. That shit was actually good. All right, I'm going to go work out now. I'm going to go move now. Or I'm going to go eat a salad now. Or, hey, that was fun. I'm back on it now. Right? But, like, it all starts with this, like, self-integrity. And I think all of us, like, I'm not talented. I work hard. And I, like, look at me. People look at me like, oh, you work hard. I'm like, I give you the illusion I work hard. I still feel like I'm only at 20% of my potential. And I'm okay with that. Like, I've listened to 3 hours of audiobooks today. And like, that's helping me, but I was supposed to be doing stuff in the moment. And I was like, oh, I should probably pause. I paused it, wrote an email, went back. Right. And I'm going to work towards this way and this way of being to where like I wake up in the morning, I fill my tank, I'm present, I get my work done in an hour, and then I'm with my family for the rest of the day or with a nonprofit or with my team or having an impact. I'm going to get there. That's what I'm working towards. Right. But like earlier when we talked about like, you have to get, know where you want to go. I don't know where I want to go. I just know I don't want to be here. That's all I know. I know I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I know I don't want to get up at 3:30 in the morning for anybody else. I want to do it for me. I know I don't want to hustle. I don't want any of those things. But I don't know in 10 years, like if it's going to have one company, 10 companies, California, Montana, another kid. I don't know. But I'm in pursuit of it, and I'm allowing it to figure itself out as I go. And so if I continue to work on building the man that can sustain or hold it, then it will create itself, right? This Wes Watson is somebody I love to pieces. He was a felon for 10 years, and he's a massive Instagram influencer trainer. And I mean, he's hard as nails. I can't even, right? But there's this one thing he says every time I hear him, and I go listen when I need to get kicked in the nuts. That's when I go listen to Wes, right? And he says, your job is to build the man that you can become and give it away every day. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And like at the end of the day, results come on the other side of that. But nowhere do results come from me by pretending to build the man, by hoping somebody else will do it, by not opening the email or not listening to that message or not firing that team member or not creating that asset or not finishing that email. That's it.
Yeah, we know what to do. That's never the problem. I've never run into anybody who doesn't. I mean, if they just shut up long enough, they actually know what to do next.
We all know what to do. Listen,
yeah.
If information was the secret, we'd all be rich, happy, and in shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's not information. It's not. It's just putting it into practice. And here's the thing, like I didn't do it for so long because I thought my practice had to be perfect, which is the opposite of fucking practice. Like I never shot a gun in my entire life until boot camp, and I scored almost perfectly. But I did not hit the target on my first ever shot. And 7 days later, I almost had a perfect score. But yet I sit here in my life and I'm like, nope, don't shoot it yet. Don't shoot it yet. Don't shoot it yet. You might miss. No, shoot it and miss. Miss. But don't miss and then be like, I'm never shooting a gun again. Because then you're just lying to yourself. You never wanted to shoot one in the first place.
George, I got to say, this has probably been the most loving kick in the nuts I've ever had. I'm
just talking to myself.
That's right. No, but that's
George. Sorry, I've got to cut in. I've got to say something. I really appreciate what you bring to the world. I think it's so contrarian, but it's so what so many people need to hear right now. Myself included. I'm sitting here. It's funny. I've got this little upload bar
Yeah.
right? Showing how much of my data for this episode's uploaded. And I feel like that's what's happening in my brain. Like I'm processing, I think, where we were 15 minutes ago, because it's taken me a while. I'm going to have something really profound to say in about 2 hours.
You should see what it's like inside of my head. Right? And like full disclosure, my goal is to come on a podcast and have nothing to say. And be able to answer in 30 seconds. Succinctly, with power, delivering inspiration. I'm not there yet. I think I'll get there. Because I have a gauge. I have a barometer. I'm like, okay, I'm talking too much. Shut up. Right? Like, there's that line. And I think that that's the beautiful part. And guys, like this, for me, I've convinced myself hundreds of times that my world is ending. My wife is leaving. My businesses are failing. I'm past broken. Nobody can fix me. Yeah, I was right. Nobody can. I can. Right? And I'm still working. I'm working on my marriage a lot. I'm working on my parenting a lot. I'm working on my business a lot. But I can actually say that I'm happy working. Right? Like I'm happy working. And that's the point that we want to get to. Like I don't hide in my office anymore. I come in, get some stuff done, and go out. And that's progress. Right? And then in a couple years, maybe I won't come to my office every day. Maybe I'll only come once a week. But I think that that's so important. And so like I'm one of those people that like I'm not saying I'm stupid. Like I'm not book smart, right? Like I'm street smart. I learn, I pick up through doing. And for years I've been given everything, every answer, every therapy, every modality, everything. And none of them gave me the answers. They gave me tools, but none of them gave me the answers. And if I look at everything, and like I can boil my life down to this. If I don't move every day, I'm depressed. If I move every day, I progress. That's it. And like, I genuinely feel like we could get rid of the depression in this country or anxiety in general, and a lot of it, if people just moved. Not moved and distracted, not moved and listen to music, not like, just move. Get up and move. Do something. And so like, now I just have all this pretty wrapping paper to put on top of it. But like at the end of the day, I can look at my life on a timeline and I can show you the results in my life were directly correlated for how much I moved. And movement for me was I was building my lighthouse. I was building my foundation. I was building the man to give away. Like, oh, I want to build a legacy business, but yet I want to kill my body in the next 10 years. Right? Like, I'm telling you I want to live forever, but yet I'm eating like I want my kids to bury me. Like, you just got to be congruent with all of it. And I think that's so important. Like, for me, that's what it is. Like, I avoided the present because I was scared of it. Like, for the last, this one's going to hurt. I'll fucking say it. For the 2.5 years, my wife's like, hey, me and the kids want to do something this weekend. You want to go? No, I'm going to work. No, I'm going to work. There's not one photo of me doing a fun activity with my kids and my wife until maybe 3 months ago. My son's 4 and my daughter's 15. For 2.5 years. No. You think I fucking accomplished anything sitting here? No. But I couldn't deal with the truth pill, or didn't want to, or was lying to myself. Now I'm like, yep, let's go. Like, I miss my daily emails now. I miss phone calls. I'm like, I don't give a shit anymore. Like, I care, but at the same time, now I'm chasing that present. I'm just like, yes. And that's movement to me. Like, hey, can we talk about this? Yeah. Or I get that audio message that always scares me because I don't know what's in it, and the ambiguity drives me nuts, right? I'm like, all right, stop. I'll listen to it right now. I used to leave those things for like 6 days. Like, legit, 6 days.
I know all about that.
Yeah, right? Because I'm like, what's on the inside of that thing? And I'm like, well, let's just pretend if I put a dead fish under my seat, it's going to smell better with time. No, I'm just causing irreparable damage. So, like, that's what it comes down to for me. And, like, yeah, I can talk around it and through it and be on my journey. But, like, at the end of the day, I teach this to my students. I tell them every morning their job is to turn the light on, and at the end of the day, it's to turn the light off. And I encourage everybody to spend the first 10 minutes of their day in silence. No phone, no email, no distractions, no human. So if your kids wake up at 6, get up at 5:30 and make sure they don't hear you. Just go sit in silence for 10 minutes. That's it. Same thing at the end of the day. And you did say,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best things I've done, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now. I used to wake up. I've got a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old,
Yep.
and my 9-year-old used to wake up. I would get up at 5:30, and he would be up at 5:45.
It's mine.
And I would hear him run upstairs and go, "Oh fuck, can I just get half an hour to myself?" And he'd come downstairs to where I'm sitting now, and I'd be pissed off that he's awake.
Yep.
And week after week after week. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can get up at 4.
Yep.
And I'd get up at 4, and I do that today, and I do whatever I need to do. And when he wakes up at 5:45, it's like at 5:30, it's like, when's he going to wake up? I want to hang out with him.
Totally.
And it's completely changed the way that we interact.
And in 20 years, you're going to beg for him to come interrupt you again.
Oh, sure. He still climbs in bed once in a while.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm on the one hand, I complain because he's like a spastic snake in the
so
bed.
is mine.
It's really irritating.
Yeah.
But I'm so afraid of the day when he's going to stop crawling in bed.
Yeah.
And I miss it so hard.
Yeah, man. I just think that's the game that we have to play. I think all of us have to play it, right? Like, you guys got to be honest. Do you want to make money or not? I don't give a shit either way. I don't care. You'll be supported, but nobody can support you in your clarity. That's it. But you got to make a decision. You just got to put containers on it. Tighten that shit up. Be like, yeah, let's do it. But no matter what, you owe that dude. That dude gets a call now, tomorrow, today. Show up at his doorstep with fucking dinner. Sit him down with a glass of wine. Be like, let's just do this in person. But I think that's really, really like what it boils down to for me is I've realized that the easiest path for me through my life and what I've experienced is just the pursuit of, my buddy Jim Quick says this, it's the pursuit of progress, not perfection. Like, just the pursuit of progress. Just take a step. Just take a step. Just take a step. And I think that that's really, really pivotal. And I'm going to close on one thing that you said, because earlier you said self-love, right? And so that alone time, the reason I do it in the morning is I feel like that's when intuition comes. Like, that's when you are your most authentic self. Like, right when you wake up, through whatever state you came out of, like, that is who you are. That is who you are at the core in your natural state, and then who you choose to be. And I'd say for 30 years of my life, I couldn't sit alone by myself with nothing for more than a minute because I didn't like who I was. And so no matter what, we are the last person that we're going to have a relationship with on this planet. The last one. Just me, myself, and I. And so that time allows me to choose to love who I am in that moment, wherever I am, and then build that person and give it away. And I think that that's really the secret to a lot of this stuff. And I do not have this figured out. So if you're listening to this or you think I have this game figured out, I am getting my ass kicked daily figuring it out. And so don't think I'm absolved or advocated from any of this. I'm not on a soapbox. Like, I'm going to get off this and I'm going to go on my second run for the day. And then I'm going to go be with my family. And then that's what I'm going to do. And then they're going to go to bed, and then I'm going to write, and then I'm going to pack, and then I'm going to get up and do it again tomorrow. And I'll probably tell myself 100 more times that I'm safe, that I love myself, ask myself who I am in this moment. Probably get some feedback, probably tell my wife I love her a lot, probably piss her off once or twice, then show her how much I love her again. And that's going to be the game. It's a beautiful game, too.
Where would you like people to go to find you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's a reason I named my podcast The Mind of George Show, and it's because it belongs in a straitjacket. So the easiest place, just go to my website, mindofgeorge.com. I have a podcast, 3 episodes a week. I have a Facebook group called Relationships Beat Algorithms. But if you're listening to this or driving, do not type it in. Just remember mindofgeorge.com, mindofgeorge.com, and it links to all those beautiful places if I can do anything to support you.